As we come back, let us remind you that At the Post Live, Serling on Saratoga, is coming to you live from the Parting Glass Pub in downtown Saratoga and is presented by Naira. Wager on Naira.com, Naira's new state-of-the-art wagering interface. Once again, reminding people, $25 donation to stay at Nashville Comes the Races and support a good cause, the Giving Circle. Includes a raffle draw for the Travers Box as well as a raffle for 4 Legend Suite tickets to Yankee Stadium. Additional raffle tickets can also be purchased. Stick around. There's a lot more going on here. We are back. My friend Dale Romans is still with us. Anybody, if they see Eddie Olczyk walking around, let me know. We'll bring Eddie up when Dale's had enough to say. But Dale's got a lot to say. Let's talk a bit about American Pharoah from your perspective. I don't know about you, Dale. I didn't believe that when everybody said, a Triple Crown winner is going to do so much for racing. I didn't believe it. But it seems to me it really has had an amazing effect.
You know, I was always of the belief that we needed a Triple Crown contender going into the Belmont more than we needed a Triple Crown winner.
Me too.
But I wasn't around much in the 1970s. I was pretty young. I was a lot younger than you in 1978.
You've aged. You've caught up to me.
Yeah, well, only in calendar years, right? I'm younger. But it has been phenomenal. The number of people that's drawn to the game, just to watch when he has to walk to the racetrack and back. When he went to Churchill after the Belmont, the guards.
20,000 people there.
It's crazy. It was crazy just to watch him parade around the paddock. Let me tell you a good story about Pharoah. I went with Mr. Zayat to watch all his babies train in Ocala when Pharoah was a 2-year-old. None of them had ever breezed. We watched 60 horses go a quarter of a mile. He went down through there, and I turned to Zayat as Tammy was with me, and she said the same thing. That's the best horse we've ever seen.
Really?
And yes. So first time out, I bet $200 on him. I'm gonna bet $200 Saturday because that's the only race he ever lost.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe we can make it happen again.
You really bet him his first start?
First start.
Wow.
Because I've literally had never seen a horse breeze a quarter of a mile the first time like he did.
You know, I'm a cynic, as you know, and you know, he was one of these horses that people were telling me, it doesn't matter. He works like the greatest thing you've ever seen, and I just poo-pooed it. I got to admit, his last race in the Haskell might have been one of the most impressive races I've ever seen.
We were about to catch him. A little bit further, I had him. Don't
really? How much further do you think?
Well, another mile.
A couple of years?
Right.
A mile or two from there?
No, every race has been good. The Derby was the best to me because he didn't go to the lead. I thought so. He beat 20 horses. He didn't go to the lead. He overcame a little trouble, and he still grounded out to win when it wasn't his best effort. He still wins. The other 2 races, he dominated, and he dominated the field in the Haskell. You know, the Haskell's better, like you say, it's a better race than everybody might see. Everybody sees him pulling up, but he really had to work the first 7/8 of a mile.
He flicked Upstart off the way like he was a gnat.
Yeah.
And these are good horses. These are not bad three-year-olds.
Odds Horse was a good horse. Upstart's a good horse, and they took it to him. You have to give them credit. They tried to beat him. They didn't try to lag for second like some people did.
I agree.
They went after him. They pressured him, and he had a tough 7/8 to a mile race. Now, he got the gear down the last 1/8 of a mile. But that's hard for a horse to do.
So here's my question. What can happen differently on Saturday that because Keen Ice is a horse. He's a typical horse by you. He had, decent races in the Triple Crown Trail, but nothing to get excited about. He had a ton of trouble in the Derby. I mean, who knows what he could have done if he had gotten clear in the Derby. And no one would be talking about American Pharoah winning the Triple Crown.
Right. American who?
Right. Keen Ice would have won the Triple Crown.
Right.
If he won the Derby,
because Bob would have run back in the previous, and he'd have gone a different direction.
Right. He would have loved the mud. It would have been all perfect. Right.
But Johnny looks over and pulls down on my horse, and now we have a Triple Crown.
He should have been second in the Belmont. I thought Kent gave him a terrible ride that day. I thought he gave up on him a little bit.
What else do you want to talk about?
So he's getting closer all the time. What's going to happen Saturday that can make the difference?
Everybody knows if American Pharoah runs his best race, there's not a 3-year-old in the country and only one filly that's going to give him be a contender against him anywhere. If everybody runs at their best, but these are organic animals.
Right.
He's had a rough year. He's had a tough year, and if it's had any wear and tear on him, if he's coming to the Graveyard of Champions, it's a tough racetrack to run on for the first time without training on it. Plus we're going a little further, and my horse is on an uptick.
I agree.
And where does Pharoah go from that last race? Can he keep going up?
I don't know. He's an amazing horse. It's almost like a wind-up toy.
And maybe he can. And if he does, I'm going to tip my hat to him because he just keeps getting better and better.
I agree.
Where's the top?
Let me ask you a question. So all the enthusiasm right now for American Pharoah. And
but let me tell you this. I've already factored 20% of $1.6 million just in case.
20% of $1.6 million?
That's second place money.
Oh, $320,000?
Right.
What do you get of that? You don't get your full rate on that, right? Right, second.
No, I get 12%.
Do you really?
If they make $1, I make 12 cents.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Is that why Jake's here? Is that why the kids are coming this weekend? They're looking for a piece?
They're all about the credit cards.
Yeah, well, that's all right, because one of them's staying with me, as it turns out. And I got the good one. I don't get stuck with him.
Right.
Okay, they all think Jake is the good one. I got Bailey. So, what about? Let's talk about racing. There's a lot going on in racing. We hear a lot of issues, which you and I don't necessarily agree with. What do you think the number one issue facing horse racing is right now?
Revenue flows. I think that ADWs and the people taking their handhelds and laptops into racetracks and betting over the internet, where at Churchill Downs, I can speak for that pretty well. We get 54% of any dollars sent through the window.
You're part of Churchill? You're working for Churchill now?
No.
You said we.
The purse account
gets
54% of anything of the takeout sent through the window. When people go in, as Churchill encourages them to do, and they bet through Twin Spires, we can only get 33%. And they get the rest. And that's the biggest issue.
Even though they own Twin Spires?
They own Twin Spires, so they get it all.
Now, of course, we have Naira.com.
Naira's different because Naira can do whatever they want because they're grandfathered in from the 78 Wires Act. They don't have to have a contract with their horsemen. But they give a lot of money from the casinos and from the pari-mutuel, and we have great purses. But if we had the same contract here that we have at Churchill Downs, purse would be double.
Purse would double in New York?
In New York. I'm talking the pari-mutuel side. Would be close to double.
Because of the handle. So what do you think we should do to make that better?
We've got to start being able to track GPS on people who have their computers and handhelds, and when they're on the racetrack or within a certain radius around the racetrack, it counts as a live wager.
And we need to know our customers better.
We need to know our customers.
Well, that's what we're trying to do at Naira, by the way.
You know what else has happened is, we've always tried to hide the gamblers, like they've been in the shadows, and this isn't a gambling game. But this is all about gambling.
I agree.
And the gamblers are starting to come out of the shadows, and they're proud to be horse pari-mutuel players, as they should be. It's a great sport. It's a thinking man's game. It's not where you sit there and pull a slot machine mindlessly every day. And I always say with gamblers, it's not about winning money. It's about being right.
That's where I am, baby.
And you walk around to your peer group.
I've been wrong a lot this summer. Summer's about being wrong for me, but I agree. No, I agree. It's about being right. Listen.
Because otherwise, why would a wealthy man go play horses?
Right.
He wants to do the math, and he wants to be right, and he wants all the buddies to clap for him when he won.
It's an intellectual pursuit. It's not, as you say, pulling a slot machine. And I think racing doesn't do as good a job in some ways of embracing that because you'll hear owners, and owners are extremely important as well. But the two people that put their money into the game are owners and bettors, and they should be treated equally. You've been saying that?
Yeah.
Really?
Everyone else takes from it. Terry Finley put it best: owners and bettors put their money in, and the rest of us are feeding at the trough. And you got to take care of both of those factions, and we have to make sure that the revenue flows are going to the right places. The ADWs are my biggest concern. We're playing poker when we play ADWs, and they're cutting a pot 33%. It never comes back into the economy of racing.
I completely agree.
Everybody wants to talk about Lasix and medication. The sport is run cleaner today than ever in history. We have the best, most sophisticated testing. We have one race day medication that's permissible anywhere in the country, and that's Lasix that stops horses from hemorrhaging internally. I'm a big pro LASIK. If someone's anti-LASIK, I don't have a problem with it. Let's sit down, we work out things, we figure out what's best for the horse. We got to put the horse first, gambler and owner second.
Let me ask you a question. Uniform medication policies. Do you think the industry is close to getting there? I think that's a very important issue. I think every state should be the same. It's just fair for the connections as well as the horse players.
I don't think it's important as some other issues.
I would agree with that.
And other people. We drive different driver rules in different states. Is it different for a horse that's run 20-degree temperatures in New York or 100-degree temperature in Florida? Maybe they need different medication policies.
Fair enough.
And if we're going to do one medication policy all over, let's do every rule the same. Let's don't have a place that can't uncouple same owner trainer entries, but another state that ships into another state that doesn't, and we all bet on them. Let's make the rules the same, top to bottom.
But we should get rid of coupled entries. That's clear, don't you think?
Well, different owner entries should be uncoupled.
What about it? Same owner?
Same owner, I don't have a problem with them coupling them. But very few of them ever get to get in because oversized fields.
Yeah, there's another barrier on coupled entries.
We're boring these people, Let's
Are we boring them?
Something.
All
yeah.
right. So what's Keen Ice going to do this weekend?
He's going to run the best race he's ever run. He's going to break from the gate. If the pace is slow, then have him close because he can do that. If the pace is fast, he'll sit back like he did in the Haskell and come running. I'd like to hook Farrell at the 8th pole and just fight for home. I don't know we could ever beat him, but I'd like to get a chance at it. But we haven't been able to get to him yet.
I hope you get a chance. I hope you get there. I'm going to let you go.
I'm not ready.
Okay.
I got a lot to talk about.
No, Eddie Olczyk's here. He's in the back. He's waiting to come up here. You're taking time away.
Eddie, you really want to come up
I
here?
I think Eddie can take it. Get up here, Eddie.
Eddie gets paid to talk about horse racing. You're not going to pay him.
I'll pay. What do you want? How much do you need? I know it's been a tough meet for both of
Andy,
us.
thanks. I want to tell everybody, there's two groups. You either hate Andy or you love him. I happen to be in the group that love him. I appreciate what you do for the game and the passion you show.
I appreciate that, Dale. And there's only one group for me, the people who love Dale Romans.
Thank you.
And I'm in that group. Dale, thanks so much for joining us. And thank you for all you do. And thanks for putting up with us. So we're going to bring Eddie Olczyk up here, and he's going to be up here in a second. I'm looking. There's some vulgarities on my phone. They're not coming from you. They could have come from Eddie Olczyk. I'm sure you're all familiar with Eddie. While he was a hockey player, and he obviously covers hockey, Eddie Olczyk, who's now talking about hockey players with Dale Romans, is covering hockey, but he also is working for NBC. And I think it was a great thing when Eddie came and joined NBC as an analyst for racing. And I'm honored to have Eddie as a peer. Eddie, how you doing, man?
Hi, Andy.
How are you?
Great crowd. Hey, everybody. How you doing? Nice to see Dale on the way down.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming down. How you enjoying Saratoga?
It's the greatest place.
It is the greatest place.
And the people make it. Let me just say that. Whether they're from here or not, this is a heck of a town. It's a heck of a place to visit, and I guess they're paying me to go to the racetrack on Saturday. It's not a bad gig.
No, it's not a bad gig, especially this
So
Saturday.
most people know it goes right back into the windows anyways.
Are we going to let you in, actually? Are we going to let you in?
I do have one of those special passes. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
You had a tough pick six beat the other day, you told me.
Yeah.
Brutal, huh?
Yeah, it was a little rough. Get the $60 horse in there, get a $35 horse, and I can't get the 3-1 there. So.
It's amazing, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the one thing. I mean, as a horse player my whole life, Andy, and just being just so involved in the game in a lot of different levels, ownership, and then, of course, playing the horses as a young kid, and then, playing in the National Hockey League and playing a lot of different places, you get a chance to travel and meet a lot of people, and it's always been that big chase or that big catch. I was lucky enough to share in a big pool out at Hollywood Park, which is obviously no longer with us, but I hit a pick six handful of years ago for a half a schmil.
Really?
On a $168 ticket. So
wow.
I'm still and I got even, by the way, after I hit it. And I'm still trying. I'm still trying to get back again. So the last couple of weeks have been pretty good. But I mean, I love the game. I love the people that are involved in it, and for me, it's just it's a passion. And anybody that knows me, it's hockey and horses. That's pretty much been my whole life.
Now, when did you get involved with racing?
Well, I mean, I grew up in Chicago, and I went to Old Arlington Park when I was maybe, I want to say I was like 18 or 19, but I think if you took off 5 or 6 years, that was probably the first time I snuck into the racetrack. But once I started making a little bit of money, and I turned pro when I was 18 years old, then I started going to the track. So that's pretty much when it started. I kind of got the bug, and it helps when you got a few more in your pocket. That's for sure.
Now, when you were traveling around, obviously playing, did you have other guys on the team that liked to play the?
Well, there were a handful of guys. Matter of fact, Dennis Savard, NHL Hockey Hall of Famer, and he's part owner in Private Zone, which is going to be running Saturday in the Forgo.
It's a bunch of Chicago guys, right?
Yeah, right. And they, and when I broke into the league in 1984, Dennis Savard had been pretty much more of a harness guy, coming from Montreal and Quebec, and but we got involved in a couple of horses. But I mean, he was one guy. Joel Quinville, the head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks, is a horse owner and a big horse player, and he's a guy that has always been involved. So I mean, I think more and more guys have gotten involved in it, and I think maybe more on the outside, Andy, of the ownership maybe than more the horse playing. But there were a handful of guys. I mean, when I go into a town, I mean, regardless of where it would be, if I would come into New York or into New Jersey to play the Devils, I mean, there was a pretty good chance that 15 or 16 guys were going out for dinner, and I was working my way over to the Meadowlands trying to get the late pick 4 or the late pick 3 at Santa Anita or whatever, and then stay for the harness or the flats at that time.
Now, you have any crazy stories about like you and other guys you played with to try to get bets down or get to the track when you got games or anything? Well,
actually, I was playing in Winnipeg, Manitoba, where in the wintertime it usually gets to like 40 below for like 17 straight days back
like Saratoga.
Yeah. It gets a little chill will, but I had a horse that was running at Arlington Park, and I was playing in Winnipeg, and it was during training camp. It was like in the middle of September, and I had mentioned to my coach. Now, I'd been in the league a few years. I said, look, and there was no OTB or there was no simulcasting. I had to drive like 175 miles down to North Dakota to get some action in. So, but all of a sudden I see the lineup the morning of the day that the horse is running. We have an exhibition game, and I'm in the lineup. And I went to the coach. I was just like, we can't do this. I got to drive. I mean, it's an exhibition game. I've been in the league a while, so I was able to, whatever muscles I have, I was able to flex my muscles. And I said, well, how about, maybe just give me a couple hundred and I'll bring you back. So long story short, the horse, I think it was Mr. Bowtie. Mr. Bowtie opened up and he won by, a handful and ended up bringing the coach, a couple thousand, and he was pretty happy that I didn't play that night. But one of the few coaches that wasn't happy that I didn't have to dress that night. So I guess I paid my way out of the game, which was not a bad thing. And actually, they gave me a voucher there in North Dakota because they actually ran out of money.
Really?
So I had to send one of our trainers back the next day, walking in with a voucher, which now is pretty normal. But yeah, that was probably the one where. We got the money.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty good story. That's pretty nice. Now, so when you were playing, when the other guys, so pretty much were you the only guy that was playing the horses, or other guys just
for the most part. Yeah, for the most part.
But it was funny. I remember a lot of baseball players playing the horses in the old days. Somebody was telling me a great story the other day about Lou Piniella somehow getting thrown out of a Red Sox Seattle Mariners game the day Cigar was running in the mass cap because he wanted to go to the mass cap, and apparently he told the umpire to get him thrown out of the game so he could actually get over to Suffolk Downs and see Cigar in the mass cap, which is a pretty great story. And I remember in those days seeing them. Now, you brought the Stanley Cup to Belmont Park.
July 1st, 1994, I brought the Stanley Cup to Belmont Park, but before that, I was lucky enough to meet Nick Zito and his son Alex and Go for Gin, and obviously Nick won the Kentucky Derby in 1994. So brought the Stanley Cup on the backside, and we had a picture with myself and Nick and with Go for Gin, and then we brought the Stanley Cup to the finish line at Belmont, and I dropped it off there, I think, at about 12:15 or 12:30, and I looked down the stretch, and everybody knows how long the stretch is at Belmont. I just kept looking, and all I just saw was people just lined up all the way down, and the jocks were in line, and you had the valets in line, and trainers were there, and they made a donation to the Horsemen's Benevolent Fund, and we ended up raising, I think, like $14,000 to take a picture with the Stanley Cup. It was there for 6 hours. I just brought it in, and next thing you know, I just saw it sitting there, and the people were just, and you wouldn't believe how many people in my travels now were doing TV, Andy, is that when I travel through New York, and there's always seems to be every little while where a Ranger fan will come in, and I had a very little role on that team in 1994, but being a part of it, they still say thanks for bringing a Stanley Cup to New York since 1940. It had been a long, long time, and brought the Stanley Cup, and there are still a lot of people that say they remember going to Belmont on that July 1st and saw the Stanley Cup.
Well, I remember it well. I was playing full-time and going out every day and taking the train out at that time on the Long Railroad. And I remember being on the train and it being jammed.
Yeah.
And thinking,
this is a Friday,
what's
right?
Going on? What's going
Friday,
on here? Like, where's everybody doing? So I said to some guy, what's going on here? And the guy said, Stanley Cup is coming there. And I went, really? And now, of course, I think of it all the time because Nick Zito has the picture with you and him.
Yeah.
I guess Go for Gin's drinking out of the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, we actually
maybe
played,
not really.
Well, not saying that we didn't take a couple of oats and carrots and kind of spread it around there a little bit. And look, there's been a lot of worse things in the top of the Stanley Cup than a Kentucky Derby winner's mouth. Let me just say that. Let me just say this, Andy. Is that morning when I was on my way to Belmont, we had just had a party at the Pegasus room at the Meadowlands the night before, with just a private party, and then that next morning, I lived up in Purchase, New York, and I would always go in a rye smoke shop there, and every day I would go in there and I would get the racing form. Like, that would be my routine because our practice facility was at Playland right there in Rye. So a couple of weeks before I knew I was getting the Stanley Cup. So long story short, I told the people in there, I told Tony, who was the son of the mother and father that owned the Rye smoke shop, and the Rye smoke shop was, maybe 12 feet long and 4 feet wide, and I had everything that you would want in a smoke shop, but most importantly for me, it had the racing form. So I said, hey, next week I might have a surprise for you. So just, I'll be here about 9:30 in the morning, but just I'll be in. Next thing you know, I'm driving downtown Rye in a white town and country because I got two young kids and the Stanley Cup. There was no keeper of the Cup, by the way, until post the New York Rangers winning the Stanley Cup. So we're coming down downtown Rye, and I'm looking down there, and all I see was people here in the party. I just see people at the corner, just thousands of people. I see fire engines with the ladders up. And I'm like, Pastor Vajol, what is going on down here? I pull up Horns are blaring. There's one parking spot right in front of the thing, right in front of the smoke shop. I get out. I'm like, Tony, what is this? He goes, I only told one person. So here I am. I take the Stanley Cup out of the back of the Town and Country. I pass it off to Tony. I don't know where it went. We were in there for a half hour, and but it's. I do believe it is the greatest trophy in all of sports. It's the People's Trophy. But that was a heck of a day on July 1st for sure, 1994. I can't believe it's 21 years already.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that long ago. Eddie, you're going to stick around. Stay with us. We come right back. At the Post Live is brought to you by Timeform US. Visit timeformus.com, the site for the modern horse player.